Welcome to Will's World, your will overall, powered by Third Gen Physical Therapy and Sports Science Institute.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are at the time of listening to this episode. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody close to you is doing well. And I hope everything is going good with you and will continue to go well. In today's episode, we're going to discuss a topic today that's probably something that's a little bit, you know, outside of the normal conversations when it comes to just, self reflection. But before we get started, like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, as well as comment if you have any questions or any topics that you want us to talk about, or any comments on the actual podcast itself. And with that being said, let's get going. So, in today's episode, we're going to discuss: are you the problem or the solution? Are you the problem or the solution? Now, when I say that, I'm speaking from the standpoint of, you know, have you ever considered self reflection? I think I probably self reflect more than anyone. I try to make sure that I consciously make changes and try to be as critical as I can of myself before I have that outward projection to anyone. Because the one thing I want to make sure that I am is that, one, I'm at peace. Two, I've been critical of myself and I've tried different avenues to get to a certain solution. And then, not to mention, I don't have the same complaint, because I think if I have the same complaint, then I have to look at myself and reflect on who I am, and then kind of move from there. So, in this talk, we're going to cover three different aspects of it. First, when things never work. That's the first topic within the topic. Two, do you have the solution? And then last but not least, are you the problem? So when we're discussing when things never work, right? That's a thought process that I think a lot of us don't really allow to happen. What I mean by that, when things never work, you're always able to identify the problem within that. What is really going on? Because a lot of times, whatever, when something's not working, maybe you're identifying, the flaws in the system. Maybe you're being, really detail oriented on certain processes that have to occur in order to improve the system. Maybe you're not considering the people that are quote unquote contributing to the issue, or your coworkers rather. Maybe you're not considering the family that you actually are in, kind of so how they're set up and what they're willing to allow to occur and not occur. And then some of that whole process of when things never work, maybe they're not meant to work in that particular setting, right? So when you sit down and you really dive into the details of it, and you really have a moment to be able to kind of take things apart a little bit and not just point to one person, because when you point to one person, for the most part, like, it's other things at play. You're just hyper focused on those people. And then by doing that, are you able to be objective, right? Because when you're being objective, you're taking out your emotion, which is a problem for this society now. Everything is emotionally driven. It's always an emotion, and we don't operate in logic ever. You know, like, if, for instance, let's say if you're at a job, right, and you have an issue with, just some small of the job, right? Just say you have an issue with how the time clock situation works. When you hop on, clock in, whatever, but you have to make sure you're 3 minutes before the time you're supposed to clock out to get that full time, right? And let's say that you have a person who does the same exact thing you do, but they're never at work. I mean, they're there, but they're really not. Like, they come in, do a little work, but they have to leave and go run an errand or whatever, right? Just based on what you're doing for a living. And then they come in and clock out late, and I always tell them, the supervisor, hey, you got to kind of roll my time back. Right, I really forgot to clock out. I was on it this time, but I was already in the air and I got stuck doing this. And they get clocked out of their time. Right. A lot of people would take a frustration with that, because the fact of the matter is that we're looking at it and probably saying that that person doesn't work. They're out and about, so they're the problem. Well, there's a lot of things that we can identify as being the problem. One, your supervisor not holding them accountable. Two, the actual clock system. When you clock in a particular place, shouldn't you be required to clock out on the way out? Or should there be an automatic clocking out that happens when your badge leaves a certain perimeter of the building? Or maybe there's actually, not a quote unquote reason why the people should be constantly leaving the building. If that's the case, then while we have a clock to begin with, maybe we need to put them on salary. There's so many things that we have to consider. And a lot of times we only consider one thing when things never work. Now, the second piece, do you have the solution? If you notice at the end, I gave multiple solutions to the example I actually offered. It's not because the solutions are correct or will work. It's just the fact that have I thought of a solution? Sometimes some of us just want to complain. And it gets to a space of like, it's cool to complain. Like, that's not bad because you have to release some of that pent up, stress in a sense. But at a certain point in time, when it's the same issue you're complaining about, you probably want to be able to address that issue. And sometimes it's not you leaving the space. Sometimes it's actually you trying to figure out, how do I coexist here? How do we operate here? And maybe you get to the situation where your solutions, put you in a space where you have to, separate or leave the space or stop working the job or, change dynamics of things around you. And that's fair too. The thing with that though, the solution can't be the same solution for every situation you encounter because every situation is different. Meaning that if I get to a particular place and I have a solution, the solution is the same exact solution that I had in another place. Now then I go to a different place and the solution is the same I had in that place in the other. At some particular point in time, we have to be real. You know, like your solutions are really not solutions. Your solutions are your actual vision of what would make things better for you. It's not objective in no way. It's an emotional decision that you're making to actually try to address something that's never going to be resolved because it's not about, the situation. It's about you. Try this, all right? If you're ever in a situation, do something you wouldn't normally do, all right? Do something you wouldn't normally do. Meaning that, let's say if you're in a situation, you're like, hey, I don't want to be the leader. Try to be the leader. Try to lead the people that you have an issue with to do the thing that is written down to do. This is what we're supposed to do. This is how we're supposed to handle it. Do it. Because if you do that, you're going to find out the third piece of the talk. Are you the problem? And what I mean by you being the problem is that are you the issue in the whole ball of wax? Not the external things, but are you the problem? The problem don't mean that you're a negative thing, you're a bad thing. The problem could be a positive deal. Maybe you're just a self-starter. Maybe you're just super motivated. In the way you operate, people can't operate like that. And so you require something them, maybe they just can't do. So you could be the problem in a good way. Maybe you're in a situation where you're able to quote unquote discuss, certain things with people to be able to encourage them to do something. And then as soon as you leave that particular conversation, they back at their habits. Guess what? You may be the problem. Why? The message may be great, but the messenger is the wrong. And then it's situations where you are the problem in a negative light. You're self sabotaging. There's nothing ever is going to satisfy you. You're not going to be okay with, certain aspects of things. And people will say that, well, that's a good thing. I'm trying to push something forward. Not always, not in every aspect. Because when is enough enough? Like, when's enough of something enough? Let's say we focus on our career, right? And we're like, hey, we did all this work to get to this aspect of my career. And the thing within the career is to get financial stability, right? And then you achieve financial stability. At what point in time is enough enough? I mean, when is enough money is enough money? When's enough work is enough work? When is it enough? There has to be a point, right? Some people say, no, I want to go forever. Well, cool. That's your decision. But just make sure you understand that you're the problem. And if that's the case, then you're quote unquote in a space where until you change, you until you try different things, you will never be able to get the solution you want. Hope today's episode, guys, you were able to get something out of the episode. Hopefully, I said some things that stuck with you. Hope I was able to help guide you on a few things that you have trouble with. And hopefully, whatever I said, man, whether it made you mad or made you happy, hope you knew it from a place of just honesty and that I don't have a dog in the fight. Um, I just think that some things, need to be talked about. And sometimes we don't have an opportunity to do so, or be able to hear another voice. And maybe my voice is not the voice you want to hear. And maybe it is. And if it is, then great. If it's not, I understand. It's cool. But you have to figure it out. Are you the problem or the solution? And do you have a solution that's objective? And at the end of the day, can you accept the actual conclusion that comes from your decisions? And if not, be able to accept that too. With that being said, everybody, hope you have a blessed one. I'll catch you in the next one.